Welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. I'm Jay Leach. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am very pleased and proud to be one of the ministers of this community. In an interview several years ago, the challenging, often disturbing, brilliant poet Claudia Rankine declared, "I believe in the possibility. I believe in the possibility of another way of being." At the core of our vision is that same assertion. We say that this particular loving, liberating religious community is committed to transformation. Inherent in that commitment is a belief in the possibility of another way of being, another spiritual way, another societal way, another environmental way, not just an improvement on what is, not simply changed from what is, not what is made a little bit better, but another way of being altogether. We're here to explore that again, not to finish, but to continue. Thanks for being a part today. As we hear and perhaps join in singing our opening song, if you are watching this on Sunday morning, you may wish to visit our public Facebook page and post greetings to those who share this experience with you. Again, to each of you, welcome.
Here in our home, we light our own chalice. Today, we do so for our whole community.
May its warmth remind us of our caring connections to one another, even while we are apart.
May its light symbolize all that guides our journey.
May its fire represent our passionate commitment to continue on this journey together.
Good morning. and welcome. I am Kelly Green, Membership Coordinator for Unitarian Universalist Community of Charlotte. We are glad you're with us today. If you are new and would like to learn more about us, here are a few options. Right after this service, we hope you will join me and one of our members for getting to know us. During this session on Zoom, we'll answer whatever questions you have and tell you what it's like to be a member of this community. You can find the link in the What's Happening post on our Facebook page. You can go to our newsletter Currents, or if you receive the Sunday morning email, it's in there too. Or you can just send me a message on Facebook or email, and I'll send you the link. I do encourage you to sign up for our newsletter Currents at www.uuccharlotte.org. There, you can find out all that's happening in this vibrant community. If you have any questions, I hope you will contact me. You can email me at kelly@uuccharlotte.org. You can find my post on the Facebook page and just send me a message there. If you would like to get in touch with one of our ministers, I can do that for you. Thank you for being with us this morning. We hope you'll join us again, and I hope I get to meet you soon.
Shinobu Ishihara became a professor of ophthalmology at the University of Tokyo in 1907. A decade later, he developed something that is still in use around the world today, the Ishihara test. You may not recognize it by that name, but it's entirely possible that you have taken it. Shinobu Ishihara's creation remains the standard way optometrists test for color blindness, or more accurately, color vision deficiency. It involves a set of circles, each containing a mosaic of dots in different sizes and colors. A person with normal vision perception would be able to identify the number that appears in the contrast between the colored dots on each one of Ishihara's plates. Those with some color vision deficiency will not be able to do so. I first encountered this not in an optometrist's office, but in a museum in Switzerland. The friend who was with me called me over, fascinated by an exhibit on Ishihara's test. I gazed into the display cabinet, confused. I don't get it. Just look at the circle and the number that appears, she explained. I looked. No number at all, just a random bunch of dots. She thought I was joking. What about the next one? Nope. Nothing there either. It went this way for several circles until at last I did see the faint outline of a number, only it wasn't the same number she saw. Now, to be clear, I've known since childhood that I have a severe color vision deficiency, but it had never been tested, not until that museum visit. As others of you with this condition can attest, this does not mean that I only see in black and white. And in fact, Ishihara's test allows for the way in which those of us with various deficiencies actually perceive things in a different, non-standard way. Some of his plates he called transformation plates. With his transformation plates, an individual with a color vision deficiency will see a number, but it's a different one from the one seen by those with normal color vision. While those without any deficiency will clearly see, let's say, a 5, I'll perceive it as perhaps an 8. My deficiency transforms that 5 into an 8 so convincingly that I'm certain that's what everyone else is seeing. Now, as deficiencies go, this is a really minor one with relatively insignificant consequences. And though the metaphor does break down, it's worth pausing to think about this notion of Ishihara's transformation plates. Again, because of my limitation in my capacity to perceive, I'm convinced that I'm seeing things the way everyone else does. It's an 8. That's obvious. Where color vision deficiency is concerned, there's no corrective. At best, I can only admit that I'm misperceiving things, even though it sure looks right to me. A deep commitment to transformation of the sort we extol as a congregation invites that very same experience on a much larger scale, uncomfortable as that might be. What if I'm not seeing things the way they really are? What if, no matter how convinced we may be in the accuracy of our perception, there's some deficiency, some limitation, some narrowness to our vision that means we're missing things, misperceiving things. So one very practical practice for those committed to transformation is simply asking that question. What if I am the one who is misperceiving things? That can become a spiritual practice, a deeper, more challenging version of what Buddhists call mindfulness, paying attention, pausing to notice. It invites, in fact, it insists on the spiritual virtue of humility, allowing for the possibility that some limitation on my part means I'm misperceiving things. The work some of us have been doing for these past few years makes us aware that the more closely we are aligned with the dominant culture, the more likely it is that we do, in fact, suffer from a deficiency of perception. Being white, straight, cisgender, educated, economically comfortable, especially if you're also male, means you're almost certainly misperceiving things. Shaped as we are by these privileges, we're convinced that everyone is seeing our 8, when in fact, we're the ones often getting it wrong, enculturated to overlook, ignore, even deny that it really is a 5. There is something that can help with this kind of deficiency. It is, in fact, what our board summoned us to a few years ago. There are particular perspectives that we must consider as a corrective. We must listen to and learn from those on the margins, the historically, socially, culturally marginalized. We must consciously commit to a reordering of our values in ways that make us take most seriously those most deeply impacted by the injustices about which we profess to be concerned. We have to be willing to ask, what do they recognize that I am missing? What truth are they telling that I have denied? What inequity do they see face to face that I am ignoring? What injustice are they decrying that I don't even notice? No matter how convinced I am that for all the world, it has to be an 8. What if they are the ones who recognize that it is, in fact, a 5? If you've been along the I-277 loop just on the edge of Uptown, or if you've watched the local news or read the local paper, or if you are connected to the organizer activist community in Charlotte, then you are well aware of the tents where dozens, maybe hundreds of our unhoused neighbors are now living. What should we do? How can we help? How will the county charged to respond to homelessness address this social problem? To whom can we turn? The tents didn't just suddenly appear. They've been around. In fact, in the very early days of the pandemic, some were already expressing concern for these tent dwellers in our midst. One such person was an outspoken Black organizer and activist. She had a plan, an approach, a proposal, something quite unlike what the establishment was proposing. The county should designate a safe space, a large tract of unused land, where tents could be set up, socially distanced, and where those living in the tents would be supported by sanitation stations and by social services. She didn't just create this plan from her imagination. It wasn't simply a reflection of her impulse to try to make a difference. She proposed what she did because she knew many of the tent dwellers, knew what they wanted, knew what they wouldn't do, wouldn't go along with. She knew, for example, that many of those living in the tents didn't feel comfortable or safe going to shelters run by the major nonprofits and weren't going to move into some highly regulated motel system run by those same organizations. So she proposed something different, something that honored the perspective of those in the tents. She created a plan, garnered some support, and pitched it to the county. Here's a way, if you really are interested in helping, that the unhoused in the tents say that they would like to be helped. Designate a large tract of unused county property. Allow those of us with actual relationships with them to be the support staff and provide resources to create and sustain such a place. There were meetings, documents exchanged, advocates signed on, calls were made, letters were written. All the members of our county commission were informed and invited to support such an approach that honored the tent dwellers as people with worth and dignity, who should get a say, in fact, should get the say about their own plight. The county manager and the county health director were brought into the conversation. Zoom meetings and phone calls took place. Tents now line the I-277 loop near Uptown, huddled on the side of the freeway, vulnerable, exposed, supported primarily by relentlessly devoted grassroots efforts, straining to meet the needs in a piecemeal fashion. Because our county leadership said no. No to an innovative, imaginative, outspoken Black organizer and activist. Because they decided that the large not-for-profits with the known names and the big profiles and the big budgets should receive additional county funds to address this problem. Because they said that shelters and hotel rooms were the answers. The tents are where they are now because what could have been transformative was rejected. Sometimes what is transformative offers a whole new approach, one that asks those of us who've invested in the old approaches to let go of what we know. Sometimes what is transformative is so because of who leads it, because someone closer to the margins is empowered not to do what the dominant culture wants done, but to act in new and imaginative ways. Sometimes what is transformative unseats the old authorities, asks those who've always been at a distance from the problem to risk asking what they are misperceiving and to imagine that those with the problem just might know the best response. Sometimes our own commitment to transformation is going to require us to break ties with the established order and to risk supporting those who are leading from the margins. Sometimes, if we are serious about transformation, we will be the uncomfortable ones, the ones with misgivings, wondering how something so different from what we see could possibly be the right approach. Next time you see the tents, read about the tents, hear folks talking about the tents. Imagine for a moment what could have been. Imagine for a moment something transformative.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Visco. I've been a member of the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte since 2010. I've enjoyed many roles over the years. Most recently, I served on our Board of Trustees, and I am currently a member of our Intersectional Justice team. One of my most cherished roles was as a member of our congregation's Vision Steering Team, the group tasked with leading our most recent visioning process. Under the leadership of Fred Dodson and Michael Elder, we spent more than 2 years helping the congregation in identifying and putting into words where we would like to see ourselves in 25 years. This was an incredibly daunting task, but we were quite successful in having many meaningful conversations with so many of you about the dreams we share. Reducing those grand dreams to a simple statement was a little more challenging. We are so many things, and our community means so many different things to each of us. After a lot of thought and discussion, we identified transformation as a central theme to our vision. We realized that becoming the community we long to be would require more than incremental changes. When we looked at the reasons that we exist, it seemed pretty obvious that changing lives and changing the world would be at the top of the list. We're UUs. Would we settle for anything less? So what do we mean when we talk about transformation? As we're discovering, it's not a simple concept that welcomes an easy definition. One way I like to think about transformation is that it involves significant, substantial change that is less about the outcome and more about the process of getting there. That sounds a lot simpler than it is, but getting the how and why right is absolutely essential in the work we do toward living our vision. I've been thinking a lot about our vision statement. It reads, "We are a loving, liberating religious community inspiring spiritual, societal, and environmental transformation in the larger community, in our congregation, and in the personal lives of children, youth, and adults." I'm often drawn to the language in our vision statement that was crafted in an attempt to quantify who we aspire to be. We strive to be nothing less than a loving, liberating religious community. I invite you to think about what this means to you. Here's one way to think about it. Fueled by our deeply held shared values, we seek to love ourselves and our neighbors in such a way that we are all liberated. All of us. Think about what that might look like. Could such a community be anything less than transformative? What would be required of each of us? What might we have to do differently? What might we need to let go of? How do we challenge ourselves and do the hard work necessary to embody this idealized community? A vague understanding of what transformation is may not inspire a specific image in my mind, but this I can envision: the transformative power of a truly loving, liberating, religious community. May it be so.
I want to take a moment to say a big thank you. Thank you for paying on your pledges. Thank you for when you see our electronic portals popping up on the screen after each service or accompanying these offering words, making your donation through Venmo or text to give, as you might have put in some dollars into the plate when it passed by you when we were together on a Sunday. Your gifts of financial generosity make everything we do together possible. And thank you doesn't quite feel like enough, but it's a start. So thank you.
As Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a gigantic insect. It's one of the creepiest opening lines from one of the creepiest stories in all of literature. I'm sure some of you recognize this disturbing opening from Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis. An ordinary salesman, one Gregor Samsa, awakes to discover that overnight he has been completely transformed. When we tout our commitment to transformation, this is most certainly not what we have in mind. That just may be truer than it sounds at first hearing. Of course, we're not talking about people becoming bugs. But neither are we talking about something that happens overnight. Deep spiritual transformation, profound societal transformation, the kind of environmental transformation that needs to occur, these are the work of the rest of our lifetimes. And so we'll have to be satisfied with small steps, incremental actions, things that may hardly seem transformative at all, but could at least point in that direction. We must meld passion with patience, social concern with spiritual depth, humility and humor, stepping back and stepping up. There's so much more to be said. Need for discussion, reflection, forums to ponder transformation and chart new courses. There's a need for deeper spiritual practices, for deep exploration of who we are, to whom we are responsible, to what we will give our hearts. There's an ongoing place for learning, asking the hard questions, facing the hard truths. We are a loving, liberating religious community, inspiring spiritual, societal, and environmental transformation in the larger community, in our congregation, and in the personal lives of children, youth, and adults. To which I invite all of us to say and to mean, may it be so.
Good morning, members and guests. I'm Eve Stevens. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm one of the ministers of this congregation. Guests, I encourage you to explore our website. You can subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter Currents from our website, and that will give you the most up-to-date details on ways that you can engage with the life of our congregation. We're glad you're with us. Hard to believe, but the 12th annual Luna Rising Festival is coming up. This is an event that celebrates the feminine spirit and all who live their lives as girls, women, femmes, or who identify as non-binary and celebrate the feminine energy in their lives. And Luna Rising, of course, will be virtual this year, but registration closes Friday. In our times of joy, sorrow, uncertainty, and celebration, we hold one another in the loving embrace of this community. We hold in our prayers Steve Bivens as he recovers from surgery. We hold with love Eric Davis and his family as his father is now in the care of hospice. We hold in our hearts Dan and Shannon Maples and their family as Dan recovers from surgery. We hold in our hearts the family of Barbara Bass as we join them in mourning Barbara's death. We are sending love to Dia Steiger and her family, and join in mourning the death of Dia's husband, our member, Paul Steiger. We celebrate with Shannon Bradley on the occasion of her daughter's wedding. We celebrate with Ron and Joyce Kelly Kramer as they celebrate the birth of their first grandchild. And we celebrate bringing a new baby into the life of our congregation. We're sending love and celebrating with Emily Boone and Hunter Soper as they celebrate the birth of Genevieve Boone Soper, who we will come to know as Evie. Members, you received a congregational care message from me this week that included some information from my colleague, Minister Jay Leach. It was about an upcoming medical procedure that Jay is facing on Monday. And this procedure will necessitate that Jay step away from his professional responsibilities for a week so he can focus on healing at home with his family. We are holding Jay, his wife, Melissa Mummert, and their child, Emerson, with love and in our prayers as they navigate these uncertain days ahead. I invite you now into meditation. Breathe deeply and close your eyes. Feel your weight settle more fully into your chair. Feel your feet on the floor or your back on the bed. Breathe in. Let the air you take in circle through your body, bringing life to every cell. Breathe out. As you breathe, I offer this meditation, adapted from Unitarian Universalist minister Teresa I. Soto. Can we commit in community to memorize the compass points of the day yet to come? The truth, the love, the fire, the endless yes of the horizon. Shake the scales from your imagination. Shake the scales from your imagination. Reach, stretch, rise. There is no more time for pretending that everything can be all right without our care, without our attention. We can mourn, grief being more real at times than the promise of the sunrise, more real than the peace of the moon that by inconstant silver turns, disappears. And yet, while we may mourn changes, losses, deceptions, and betrayals, beneath the ash, we find the ember. Beneath the ash, we find the ember. We weep. And then, as we have learned from liberation movement after liberation movement, we organize. Remember the day toward which we gather. Remember the day toward which we gather, the tomorrow toward which we advance. It is with our actions today that we engage the ragged, velvet feel of a day that we have never lived. It is our day. Remember it well. Amen.
Here at the conclusion of this service, I pause to thank you for your many expressions of concern in these past few days. The deep anxiety of this week has been assuaged with the arrival of each new message expressing care and support. I carry your messages with me into the difficult and challenging days that lie ahead for us. More grateful than ever to know that I am indeed a part of a loving community, one to which I am deeply committed and to which I anxiously await the opportunity to return. And so for all of us, words again from my dear colleague, Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear. And the stakes are very high. Take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone.